Okay, Jack, hello.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very, very well, thank you. Very well.
Good, good. Now, I came across you on Instagram through Chris Williamson's story. I think you went live with him not too long ago,
That's
correct?
great. Yeah. We did an Instagram live about 2 weeks ago now. Yeah, it
Hmm.
was good.
Yeah, excellent. So I saw on your Instagram that you're a life and a mindset coach, and I'm imagining it takes some heavy reading, sort of getting into something like that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's specific reading, but it definitely takes some yeah, you need to kind of like research your product and definitely do a lot of because it's an interesting industry. It's not sort of like cut and dry with, like maths, that plus that equals that. It's
Yeah, of
it's
course.
very subjective and everyone's got their own method. So I like reading for the opinions of others, but
Hmm.
also to give me an understanding of kind of where it's come from and also like where it's going, because
Mm.
coaching as a whole has been around for it's been around for quite a while, but not as like a coaching as a specific. It's more for like philosophy or sort of
Yeah,
leadership skills and that sort of thing. So there's some big names that have been around for like donkey's years, like Napoleon Hill and
yeah,
Dale Carnegie and those kind of guys. They've written books for that have kind of stood the test of time, but then
yeah,
there's other guys that are now writing books who are taking it like into much more niche markets as well as different styles,
yeah,
taking what was learned and have sort of reimagined it for the 21st century. So yeah, I get a good spectrum of different things, but I also read because I get ideas, and the ideas
mm.
is what really excites me. It kind of gives me something to think about and then maybe talk about and share with other people. So yeah,
Yeah, of
that's
course.
why I love reading so much.
Yeah, of course. I watched a couple of your book reviews on your Instagram the other day, and it's quite funny. You do similar to what I do, where you'll read something, you're like, well, without ruining it, and then you have to play really close to the line to not ruin it
Yeah,
for people. Because I think you're quite similar to me. When you read a book and you get an idea, you just get excited, and it looks like you just want to sort of shout that out to the world and tell people. Um,
absolutely.
which I imagine is
Yeah.
quite good in your job because you can just keep recommending books to people all the way through.
Yeah, look, it does help. I mean, my way of doing things, I think you mentioned you do this as well. I dog ear the pages that
Mm,
I'd like to
yes.
kind of go back to. So I'll read a book, page to page, cover to cover, and I'll sort of like dog ear the pages that I either want to go back to for something I want to look into more, or something that
Mm,
really stood out as like a quote or a phrase or something that I need to like really remember. And then I have another book that I like note everything down in, and
yeah.
then that's what I then use as my kind of like sort of summary, if you like, to then go ahead and do a video on it, or talk to anyone about or whatever. But it started because when I was traveling,
Yeah.
I would take books with me, but then obviously do that whole like leaving a hostel, pick up in a hostel type
Yeah.
thing. But I kind of wanted to remember what, there were some books I was quite attached to, as you know, I'm sure you get like
Yeah,
those books
definitely.
where you're like, oh, I
And you
don't want
can't
to give up.
steal.
No, exactly. You got to, it's one
It's
for one,
bad
one for
now.
one. So I ended up just writing this thing down in this book, and it just kind of became quite fun, because then I'd meet someone who had a cool book, and I'd be like, "What's that about?" And you tell me, and then
Yeah.
I'd be like, "Well, I just read this." And he's like, "What's that about?" I was like, I can tell you. And then I've got this whole like notepad on kind of like, and it's just bullet points and stuff, but it helps with also when I find myself in a position where either on my own or in my own life or with a client or something along those lines, where I can remember reading something about it. Mark Manson is a great example.
Yeah,
His
definitely.
philosophy on just life is just very one way. His
Mm.
is just like, I don't know if I can swear or not, but it's just
Yeah,
like,
yeah, mate. Yeah, no,
yeah.
literally say whatever the fuck you want. It's cool.
He's literally like, shape up or ship off kind of thing. He's like,
Yeah,
fucking do it or just go home. He's kind of
yeah,
very like black and white, which I love about him, but it's
yeah,
his own way. So when I meet someone who's kind of like in that personality frame, I can sort of go, you'd like Mark Manson, and recommend books based on what his sort of personality type is. So
yeah,
yeah, I definitely think that reading gives you that kind of, it gives you something to talk about, but it also gives you something that you can use for either your own life and your own goals and whatever it is, or just as knowledge to have as a backup so that you can talk to anyone in any situation. I find that's also quite useful.
yeah. I think it's quite a good thing about reading is you can read for yourself, and of course, expanding your own mind's the greatest part about it. But the thing that I like most about it is when you have someone in front of you and they present you with a problem, and you remember like a quote or something from a book, and you just seem like a genius.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
they're like, oh, he's well read, and I'm like, yeah, well, I did just read it last night. It's not something I'm pulling out of like the archives, but
Love that.
it's definitely one of those things where people present problems to you in their life, and you've actually got some sort of substance to come back with. Where for a long time in my life, when I didn't read, if someone had a problem, I'd sort of just crawl into a shell and be like, oh, thank God it's not me.
Yeah, exactly. So what sort of stuff do you like reading?
I read very broad at the moment, especially since I've started the podcast. I've started to go a lot sort of more broad, so I'm not getting bored. At the moment, I'm reading Ross Edgley's book.
Oh, I wanted to order that. You have to let me
Brilliant.
know what it's like.
Oh, it's incredible. I'm about 250 pages in, and I've already ordered my wetsuit. I've already got my goggles. I'm going to be a swimmer.
That's
and,
interesting because I am a swimmer. I
okay.
swim. I've done big long distances. I completed an Ironman earlier in the year.
Oh,
Like
cool.
swimming is my sport. I'm gutted I can't swim right now because of lockdown. But I obviously knew about Ross because he did the lap around the UK,
Yeah.
and I sort of followed him from then. And I've literally had in my diary pre-order his book on what it came out like last week or the week before, didn't it? Pre-order his book. But it'd be good to know what your thoughts are on it because I definitely want to get it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'll be recording the episode tomorrow, so you can look out for that. But I can recommend it now. It's brilliant, and I think for me, I read something and I get so into it. It's why I've started I read about philosophy, and now I'm like, right, well, I love philosophy. I'm reading about someone swim around the UK. I'm like, I live in Bournemouth, so we've got the beach right near us. So I've just set a goal for my next month to swim from pier to pier. So it's Boscombe to Bournemouth Pier, and it's about a mile. I think in a month's time, I should be able to do it. I should probably be able to swim a mile now, but I think in the sea, it's a little bit different. You can tell me that if it's different in the sea.
It is, yeah. You've got a few more things to contend with, that's for sure. Plus you got to do this thing called sighting, which is obviously where normally you take 3-4 strokes and then you take a breath to your left and 3-4 strokes breath to your right, whatever. Sighting, you've got every kind of like every time you do that cycle once, you have to kind of come up and look forward so that you're not basically swimming either one way or the other because there's no pool, like there's no line
of course
to follow. But you've also got the tides and the waves and wildlife, of course, in there to tender with. But it's more fun because you don't have to tumble turn every 5 minutes, so you get a good rhythm on. And for me, swimming is my meditation. That's what I do to switch off. I've now had to swap that with running, so I've now kind of found my groove.
How's that going?
It's good.
I suppose if you've done an Ironman, you're probably all right at running.
Yeah, like running. I never used to like running. Running was definitely something I had to really force myself to like. But it was more that, particularly with my work, I'm all about kind of finding the thing that you don't do in life that you struggle with or that it's challenging, and finding out why you struggle with it. And if it's such a struggle, then how can we make it so that it's not? And it's all in the mindset. It's all up here because ultimately you're the only person stopping you from doing whatever you want to do in life. End of.
It's the harsh truth.
That is the harsh truth. You are somebody who constantly puts themselves down. It's like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. There's no one else telling you that. It's you that's telling yourself that, right? So that in itself is a limiting belief that you have about whatever it might is. And if there's evidence to prove it, then sure, we can go down that avenue. But 99.9% of the time, there's zero evidence proving that you can't do something. So a lot of it is to do with I thought to myself, right, could I do an Ironman? Yeah, of course I could do an Ironman. Right. Well, I just got to figure out like how to do it and train for it and all that sort of stuff. So that was kind of like a goal that I set myself. And up until that point, the longest I'd run was a half marathon, and then in the training for that, I ran 2 marathons and, like cycled loads, so it kind of,
oh no. Hello.
You can become right there and you become much, much better at it. But yes, swimming, mate, definitely get into swimming. It's one of the best exercises you can do for sure.
It seems like one of those things, like you say, it's like one of those concentration meditations that people do, sort of yoga but I find reading like a concentration meditation where you're sort of you're focused on that one thing, and it does allow sometimes to get that clear mind. A lot of the time you read something, then your brain's popping off all over the place.
Yeah.
But it's interesting you say about the Ironman. I know you've read Dave Goggins' book, but did you sort of draw from any other books or something whilst you were sort of participating in the Ironman, or was it sort of you just trying to be step by step, stroke by stroke?
Yeah, look, I've always been quite a all or nothing kind of guy. So when I get an idea in my head, I'm pretty full steam ahead for that. But then when it's done, I'm quite like, right, what's next? And I've read quite a few books in the past that have given me a lot of perspective on sort of concentrating on, as the expression goes, I think Warren Buffett said it once, you're better off doing 2 things well rather than 5 things half-assed.
Yeah.
And the book I read recently actually resonated with me the most, which is again another Chris Williamson recommendation, which was Essentialism by Greg McKeown.
Brilliant, isn't it?
Such a good book. Like really, really took like everything that I'm doing in my life and made me go, that's pointless. That's really important. And what was I even doing that for? You know, like it just puts everything into perspective. And so, that book I've now obviously read since of doing my race, which has helped me more actually in my business, and made me realize that the question I've always asked myself whenever I do anything anyway is this serving me or serving somebody else? And it's, you usually get that kind of question come up when you feel a bit anxious about doing something.
Yeah.
So for example, if like, I don't know, you finish work 6 o'clock on a Friday evening and you know that you've got to go home and do something before Saturday morning, or maybe you've got to get up and go for a run or a swim on Saturday morning, and that's in your back of your mind, you've planned that. But everyone's like, oh, let's go to the pub and let's go do this or whatever. And it's like a spontaneous plan.
Yeah.
You in your mind know that you shouldn't be going because you've got to get up the next day, and you know what will happen if you go. But your sort of social inner person's going like, no, let's go out. I want to have fun, whatever. It's when you then have to ask yourself the question, is going out going to serve me, or is it going to serve them or serve somebody else? And actually, when you answer that question quite bluntly, like an essential question, hell yes or hell no, then you end up just making the right decision. And there'll always be another time to go out with your friends. Maybe there's not another time to do a race or whatever on a Saturday. So it's kind of changed my world in that respect.
Yeah, definitely. I think with those things, that the social pressures, I think when you start reading, it gets a little bit easier to sort of say no to people as well, especially if you're in a good book. Someone's like, oh, can you come to the pub? I'm like, do you want to talk to me about Ross Edgley? And they're like, nah. I'm like, no, then probably not. and I find, like, especially with essentialism, I found essentialism with people in life as well, where there's a lot of people that aren't necessarily keep pushing you forward in life, and they're people that you've got a dutiful relationship where you feel like there's a duty towards that person to be their friend because you've known them since you were 10 years old. But now you're like, I'm 25. I don't know how old you are, but you 30, change a lot. You change a lot in 20, 15 years. And I think with essentialism, one thing I pulled from that is that sometimes it's okay to just say no, just and say that as an indefinite no, because we all change, and saying no to people, there's power in it. And I think, like he says, it's quite liberating just to be able to say no to people whenever they ask you to do something, or when you ask yourself to do something, like, oh, well, should I go downstairs and have that cereal? And then it's like you say, is it serving me or is it serving others? It's not serving others. It's not serving me. Let's not bother.
Exactly. Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? How, you hit the nail on the head there with things that if you're strong about what you want and what you stand for, and I suppose it comes down to like what your values are really, you can be very much more decisive about what kind of you want in life. And a lot of the time when someone's pressurizing you to do something, unless they say, if they take you at first answer, yes or no, then fine. But if they start badgering you for it, it's usually because they have insecurities around the fact they're going to then do it on their own, or that you're not going to be there. And so if you say no and stick to your word and sort of don't, like, that's it, that's final, people respect that a lot more. And I found that really, really like prevalent when I went sober last year for 90 days. It was sort of like the longest, I suppose, stint I've done in my adult or recent adult life. And the first kind of couple of weeks, so hard, because people just like know me for being me, and I'm a very sociable, outgoing guy, and I'll always be at everything I can possibly be at. But normally I'd have a drink in my hand, and I just decided that I was going to be like that before, but without the drink. And so when people were like, what do you want for the bar? I'm like, oh, I'll just get me I can't remember the name of they're called something, the cans of like cloudy apple juice or something. Anyway, I used to love them, like Crostons or Kraut.
I know what you mean. Yes.
Crowford Press. Those things, they're really, really good. So I'll be like, one of them, please. And they'll be like, what, with what? I'm like, just on its own, with ice maybe. Gin, vodka, tequila. And I'm like, no, just that on its own. I'm not drinking. why are you not drinking? Oh my God. And then it's like that whole, and I'd try and avoid the whole, I'm not drinking, so I'll have this. I'll just say, I'll have that. And there were a few of my friends who were just like, yeah, sure, no worries. But it took probably like once for most people just to realize that, okay, Jack's not drinking. Took a few more times for some other people. And for the people that didn't accept it, I just don't see anymore. Even now that I'm back, kind of, I've had a drink since, and like, you know, I'm much more consciously aware of my drinking. It's like something I do very sporadically, but those people I just don't see anymore, because I know that that's clearly a bit of a problem for them. So I'm here, they're there, and we're going the same way in terms of life, but like we can't ever meet up, because it's just not going to work in that respect. So which I'm fine with. And actually the decision I made has made it so that I now respect them more, and they probably respect me more, because we're not going to fall out over the fact that we're going to the pub and one of us isn't drinking. So
because there's authenticity there, isn't there? Because you're saying, this is the way that I want to live my life, this is the way that you want to live your life. Unfortunately, at the moment, they don't quite align. So I'm going to go this way, you go that way, have a fantastic time, there's nothing wrong with you. But also, don't try and pressure me to have a beer. Exactly. That's the one thing I don't understand in life, is if you say no to having a drink or no to something, people are like, oh, why? I'm not. If someone offered me crack and I said no, no one would ask me why I'm not.
No, and that, oh man, I get that so much. It's just like, not the fact everyone offers me crack, I don't get that all up, but
I haven't had that for a while.
I get that whole, you know, why is alcohol, and I mean, look at it this way, right? 2007, the smoking ban came into the UK, right? We were not allowed to now smoke in places, in indoors. Okay. So from 2007 to, let's say, 2017, 10 years, that the amount of people that smoke has declined hugely, right? Massively, because people used to just light up when they're in the pub. Now you've got to make the effort to go outside. And obviously in the UK, it rains a lot, and, you know, but it almost becomes more of it becomes more antisocial to go for a cigarette than it used to be the other way around. Right now, I think that the same thing is happening for booze, and also for things like plant-based diets and, you know, that sort of thing as well. Because, you know, I'm plant-based, but only recently, since like sort of August, September last year.
It's only taken you 18 minutes to say it, so you're doing better than most vegans there.
Brilliant. Right. Awesome. Thanks. We got that out of the way. Everyone.
He's a vegan.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know, because I've also had this discussion with someone, like vegan. I've still got, I think, well, I call it a leather wallet. It's probably fake leather, but anyway, it's, you know, but I just eat a plant-based diet. Simple as that. And
how do you feel? Obviously, your endurance is good.
Do you know what? And that's the whole reason I started doing it. But I'll touch on that in a second. But the thing with, you know, you go in for a restaurant, and the reason I don't think I was plant-based before September last year was because you go to a restaurant and there'd be like nothing available. You couldn't get anything. So you'd be like, well, I don't really want to just eat breadsticks and olive oil. So what am I going to do? Whereas now, especially in London, you know, there is a lot of options, and it makes it a lot more easy, and people have started to jump onto the whole thing. But the reason I went plant-based in the first place was because of training. I've always been into my fitness, full stop, like whether it be training for CrossFit or doing, you know, swimming or whatever it might be. And when I booked the Ironman, I knew that I had to really step up. Like, this was a big challenge, and I wanted to get myself down. Like, I wanted to lose a bit of weight, and I also wanted to test my endurance, because that's basically what an Ironman is about, right? And I knew I had it up here, but I didn't know I had it everywhere else. And I spoke to a couple of friends who were in the game, and they said to me, like, you know, I know your history, I know what you're capable of. Have you tried this and this? I said, yeah, man, I've tried that diet, I've tried intermittent fasting, I've tried all this sort of stuff. Then one of them said, have you tried going plant-based? And I did a couple of times. He's like, no, man, plant-based. And I said, no, I haven't. All right. And he said, okay, cool, just try it for a month and see how you feel. And I did. And I'll be honest with you, it was a shit month. I was constantly hungry. My body didn't know what the hell was going on. I found myself in a real, like, what am I even doing here? I felt really lethargic, and then I couldn't sleep properly, and I bloated. Anyway, I think it was
to the system.
Big time. Because you're kind of like putting stuff into your body more regularly that you're not used to. It's lots of fiber and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, come sort of 22, 23 days in, and my body just like went, all right, cool. This is you now. And ever since, I have found that I feel great. I sleep much better. I used to have kind of 3 or 4 coffees a day. I have one now in the morning just because
Yeah.
I like the taste. I don't even need it sometimes, but it's just, you know, that's
Mm.
something I like to have. I've definitely switched from being a sort of a night owl to an early bird. I've lost a lot of weight, not like in a bad way, but I feel, and
Just feel healthy.
I feel healthy, and you know, and I've run long further, swam further, cycled further than I ever have. So I
Yeah.
personally think it's a really, really good thing for people if they want to try something new. However, disclaimer, I'm not obviously a health professional, but
Yeah.
I think there's definitely some people that react better to it than others. So
Mm.
I would say if you're curious, definitely give it a go for the 30 days and see how you feel, but be strict with yourself and actually do it properly, because you'll only ever get the right result from that.
Yeah.
Or go and get a dietetics test. I think I pronounced that right.
Yeah.
It's basically where they give you a little swab in your mouth and then they send
Yeah.
it off to a lab, and it comes back and tells you what you're intolerant to. And if you're
Okay.
intolerant to things like dairy and, you know, things like that, then usually being plant-based is better for you.
That's smart, isn't it? It's one of those things. See, I would go vegan for ethical reasons, but I love chicken and I like eggs.
Yeah.
I can cut out cheese. I don't actually like cheese. And everyone, when I say that, oh, what about pizza? What about halloumi? So I used to not mind pizza. But because of that question and my inability to just lie to people without making it really obvious that I'm lying, I just say now that I don't eat pizza. And they're like, oh, do you not like it? I'm like, nah. So I couldn't be like, oh, I don't like cheese. And then I'd say, oh, what about pizza? And I identify as a person that doesn't like cheese. And then they hit me with the pizza thing. I'm like, oh no, this is bad. And what can I come up with now? So I just cut out pizza altogether. I don't eat cheese, don't drink milk, no butter. The only thing for me is chicken and eggs and chocolate.
Nice. Yeah.
And other than that, I'd love to go vegan. I'd quite like to feel sort of that light. And I've definitely done days where I'm just like pure vegetarian without even realizing. And I genuinely think without starting to read, I wouldn't be open-minded to things like that. Because I used to be very close-minded. Like,
yeah, I agree.
Just very much, I'm on this path. This is what I do. Oh, vegans don't wash. And like, it's typical. That's 3 years ago. I would have been like that. Whereas now, like, I can make jokes, but I don't mean it. I would never take the piss out of you. Like, we've only just met over Zoom. I've done it because I'm open to it.
Yeah.
And like, it's something that I probably will try at some stage once I manage to wean myself off the chocolate, which it's not going so well at the moment.
Well, you know that if you get anything over 70%, was it 70, maybe 80% dark, it's already vegan because it's just pretty much cocoa.
Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah. So if you go into Tesco's and you see chocolate that's, I think it's 80%. I'm gonna just go with that. 80% and it says vegan, then it's just marketing. Like, I went in there once and saw some carrots that said vegan on them.
Classic. Funny. I love vegan carrots anyway. They're far better.
Much better. 3 times the price.
Yeah.
Definitely like it.
It's like that Bourneville chocolate as well is vegan. But that's the kind of chocolate that, like, if you haven't got any in the house and you're really, really desperate and you go to your mum's cooking cupboard, you're like, oh, Bourneville, bastard. And then you just tuck in anyway because you're that desperate.
Super bitter. Exactly. Yeah. So what would you say is the book that's influenced you the most in your life that you've read, and what do you think you've taken from that?
So he's leading the interview now, which is great. Take it out of my hands. I'm here
back at you.
The Alchemist, for me, by Paulo Coelho. One of my favorite books.
I've heard it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll send it to you after this as a thank you for coming on.
That's very kind of you.
Send me your address on email. It's the book I've probably given it to about 6 people now. It's a fable about a young sort of shepherd boy growing up in Spain who sees a vision of his treasure, which is somewhere beyond the pyramids in Egypt. And this is a time before you could just fly. He travels along this journey, and there's a lot of things that happen to him along the way. He sees omens that lead him on a different journey, and it's about not being set on one path and being sort of agile with what you want in life and being able to just take what's in front of you. Sort of the amor fati thing. I imagine you know that from sort of Stoic philosophy.
Yeah.
It's not got too much of Stoic in there. That's my view on it. But you just sort of love what's happening to you at the time, and you make your you'll move based on what's in front of you. And that book helped me move to Australia. Unfortunately, coronavirus helped me move back. But I will sort of get back out there. I think the impact that book has sort of had on my life has just been so profound that I just want to just shove it down people's throats and get them to read it. And it's quite a short book as well. And everyone sort of takes something different from that book. One of my friends that I met in Australia, when I met her for a coffee, she had that book and I was like, yes, we're going to be good friends.
Yeah. It's good when you find someone that's got, like, puts a book down. Yeah, I get that vibe from some people. And I love looking at people that have good quotes about books they've read, or quotes from books they've read. Not necessarily one from a book, but I found a quote the other day, which I loved, which was from Albert Einstein, which is about sort of new beginnings. And it basically said, learn from yesterday, live today, and look forward to tomorrow. And it just, like, when someone's just made up a sentence and just, yeah, exactly, like mic drop. Oh,
yeah.
And
Mind
I was
blown.
like, I wish, because people like him, Mark Twain, like all these other people that I swear they basically just have quotes coming out their ears. I mean, don't know what life was like back then, but maybe they just sat down every day and made up something, and maybe no one else was doing it. That's why theirs is so profound. But it makes me laugh. So I'm like, I really want to think of a cool quote, but they've all been taken. It's it's like ideas.
Yeah, fuck bitches, get money, and that's what we have to go for.
Oh dear.
What about for yourself? Is there any sort of particular books that you kind of shove in people's faces, or that you love and you like to sort of hand out, or just the one that you find is your favorite?
I'm looking at my shelf now because I feel like, but if I've given it to someone, it's not going to be there. What is the book that do you know what? Actually, give me 1 second. I'm just going to get my white book. Where is it? Yeah, this is my book that I put everything in. I'm just going to look through, because I had a couple of books that I took traveling with me, and I've read quite a few that I definitely felt were ones that I like really resonated with, and I gave them to people away while I was away, because I was like, yes, this is going to be something that I really want to pass on, kind of thing. I mean, the one I've just flicked onto is Vex King, Good Vibes, Good Life. His book's very, like, it's very much about my industry, and kind of just that, you get back what you put out and all that sort of stuff, with positive vibes and just being grateful every day and all that sort of stuff. That's it. You actually posted the other day, Indistractable.
Yes. Yeah. I'm trying to get him on.
He is. It's just very practical shit. Like, I love it, and it's so easy to read, because, like, of course, that makes so much sense, and it makes, it's simple. Instead of trying to, like, gain things from your life, take away the distractions, and then you'll be able to have more time to do the things you actually want to do in your life. But the way he writes is super easy, and, like, the one big takeaway I took from that, which I now can't try and ingrain into my life, is the no white box policy. Where you essentially you get your diary, and let's say, I actually heard this first through Tim Urban, the Wait But Why blog. He basically says, like, your life's made up into boxes, right? 1 hour boxes. So if you take a day, you've got 24 boxes. Let's pretend you sleep for 8, so you've got 16 left. Of those 16, how do you spend them? And he starts talking about how, when you actually break it down into the things you need to do, the things you like to do, and the things you want to do, whatever, you actually don't have a lot of time to yourself. And so time boxing allows you to do is actually make that time for yourself. Okay. And they touch a little bit on it in essentialism as well, because they're saying, like, unless you plan your day or plan your life, somebody else will for you. So by actually saying, you know what, today I'm going to do my emails, and I'm going to go to work, and I'm going to do this, some time. And
we're just losing you a little bit there. Oh no, we're back. It's all good.
Yeah. So it's, you're going to book in that me time, right? And the me time is going to be stuff that literally is reading a book, or having a nap, or playing PlayStation, or doing whatever you want to do. And I think people don't necessarily do that enough for themselves, and then wonder why they get burnt out and feel overwhelmed when their life's just getting too crazy. And then they do almost all or nothing. It's like that whole thing of, I hear so many people tell me like, oh my God, I can't wait for my holidays. I've just been working so hard and doing all this sort of stuff. And I just want a week to do nothing. I'm like, how can you go from doing like full 90 miles an hour for the whole of your life to like nothing? I can't personally do it. I get too agitated. One day, yeah, maybe Sunday, and I'm like, I'm chill, whatever. But like 5, 6, 7 days in a row, I'm by like day 2, I'm like, fucking there's a jet ski over there, or on that rock, like, I'm that
just like an excited child that goes on holiday and just wants to do stuff, and their parents are just fed up with them. I'm that person completely. I can't really sit still when I'm away, and I just want to do stuff.
So then why not embed that kind of lifestyle into everyday life so that you feel like you're getting excitement every single day? And I know the problem people say, it's time, right? Time, of course, is the most finite and valuable commodity that we own in our entire lives. There's no way we could have any more of it. Well, not yet anyway. And so use it wisely. But then where are you spending your time? And this brings back to what we were saying about indistractable and essentialism and everything. Like, where are you spending your time, and what are you actually doing that's serving your purpose? And if you know what you're doing in life, it makes it a lot easier, because you can go, that doesn't serve me, so get rid of it. That does serve me, let's do all of that, and so it allows you to then give yourself that time to yourself. So for me, mornings for me are my time to myself. Like I've been a bit all over the place in the last few weeks because of lockdown and not really knowing what's going on and stuff like that. So my schedule's been a bit up in the air, but this month I made some serious goal.
I saw those this morning.
So those goals are, for one of them is to basically join the 6 a.m. club. One day, hopefully, with the 5 a.m. club, but I'm going to start realistic. But between 6 and essentially 9, that's my time. So my time is going to be going for a run or a swim or a cycle or whatever I want to do. Maybe reading some book, doing my emails if that's what I want to do. Maybe reading, playing around in my room, building whatever. I'm going to just do stuff for me. Then when 9 o'clock hits, then I can start work like everybody else. But I've done my stuff, and I kind of feel like my day has been started in the right way. So I think if anyone's listening and they want to take some time, or they don't feel like they've got enough time for themselves, look at where you can make up some time when you're not being needed by everybody else in your life, i.e. work, family, friends. Okay. And if that is usually the morning, because as we all know, the day always gets away with us and things always crop up and things always overrun, because that's just life. So if you can start your day in the right way with things that you want to do and get them out of the way, you feel less pressure to then have to do it later, but also you just feel like you've gotten something more out of the day than just doing it for other people. And therefore you don't feel, you don't feel like you're just giving without giving anything, taking anything back.
Yeah. And of course, and once you've got up and you've done your stuff between 6 and 9, like you've already won the day. You've done it. So I would say I'm 5 a.m. club, but it's not by choice, and it's not that I'm particularly sort of hardworking go-getter. It's just my body, my circadian rhythm. Like I just get up at 5, and I hate it sometimes because I get up and I'm like, it's nice. And like living in Bournemouth, I'm like, I could catch a sunrise, and I'm like, but that was half an hour ago. So I get up and I meditate for half an hour. I read for a bit, I journal, and then I go and walk the dog. And I get back at 8:30 maybe, after like an hour and a half walk, and I have breakfast. I'm like, well, because at the moment I'm not working. I came back from Australia to this, where I don't really, I wouldn't know where to look. I've applied for a job at Tesco's and got rejected. So I was like, well, if that's not a sign just to kind of podcast and read, then whatever.
Mate, you're doing the right thing. Doing the right thing. I like it. It's good. Back onto your question though, I have found the book I reckon right now would be the book that I recommend to people as a sort of like chuck it at you. And it's I'm pronouncing this so wrong, I know, but Ikigai.
The Japanese philosophy about
purpose.
Somebody told me about, yes.
So it's a small book. I say small, it's probably about 120 pages. It really is a day read kind of thing. And it talks about basically where your purpose is in life. And why that's important is because it talks about how you can do things every single day that are serving the things that it's important to you. So it's all individualized and making, you always have to look at what's important to you. And it comes back to sort of values I was talking about earlier. Yeah. But if you can know that your day has to be made up of X, Y, Z, and this, and this. If you do that every single day, that's going to have a compound interest going forward into your later life. And the thing is, we live a life a bit like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay. We start off needing everything from the world. We get to a pinnacle at the point where we are basically our peak. And then we start coming down the slope again, and we get to the point where we need everything from everyone else at our old age. But at that point, right, you've got a world of knowledge in the back of your mind of what you've been through and all the wisdom and all the rest of it. And you feel like you were when you were there, but you're practically and sort of almost physically there. So
you're not getting your sleep. You're probably got cancer because everyone seems to get it nowadays. Like, it's probably not going too well for you when you get old, but you've got everything in your head, like you say.
Yeah, exactly. So then the things that are important to you, the things that you can't just pick up like you can now are things like like eating well, like laughing every day, family, getting regular sun, regular movement, having as little processed food and as little alcohol as possible. Those things, like, if you stop doing them now or start doing them now, depending on what you like to do, they're going to have a compound interest until the end of your life. Whereas if you start them when you're already at that point, it's almost pointless. It's almost like, well, you might as well just continue the way you're going, because you're going to be miserable if that's the way that you've lived your life, and now you're going to start living your life. So I definitely say that is kind of a book that I've met quite a few people on the way that are like, oh, you seem like you've got your life together. And I'm like, believe me, I don't. I'm still figuring it out. But the one thing I would say, and I've written this down in big capitals, is never stop learning. That is understandably, categorically, the thing that I always think to myself is never, ever stop learning, because regardless of what it is, you never know when you might need it. Broadening your horizons, broadening your mind, broadening your knowledge is something that you can do. You don't have to be from a certain background or a certain place or a certain, whatever. Anyone can do it. And if you've got a passion for something, which is what this is all about, passion and purpose, then why not? Just read. And the thing is, right now, and people will be listening to this obviously during lockdown or the back end of lockdown. Chris mentioned it as well in the podcast that I did with him. But like, what have you done in the last 2 months that you can turn around and go like, you know what, if lockdown hadn't happened, I wouldn't have done that.
Podcast.
That's the question. Exactly. Like, Ed, what you're doing with the podcast is awesome. Like, when you reached out to me and said, I was like 100% yes, because that's such a wicked idea and I love it. Right. And I think that people need to just do what they enjoy, and whether they monetize it or not, it doesn't matter. So long as it makes them happy and so long as they enjoy doing it, that's more important. Monetization and business or whatever, if you ever want to go down that route, will come at a later stage. It will, because as history has proven to itself time and time and time again, if you put something in, you're going to get something out. So if you start doing these shows and you do say 100 of them, and you're just doing them for the fun of it, you never know, the 101th, you might get someone call you and go, hey man, I've been listening to your shows for this entire time and I think you're great. Would you be up for interviewing, I don't know, Dale Carnegie or Lucy? But, you know what I mean? Someone like Rob Moore.
Joe Rogan, please.
Joe Rogan, and we're going to pay you because your interview styling is amazing, and that's kind of what we want you for. That would make all of the 100 episodes worth it, correct?
It's like the Atomic Habits. Have you read that, James Clear? I imagine you have.
I haven't, and you know why I haven't? It's because I've got this one. This is the book that is very similar, but it's Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg. Atomic Habits I do want to read, because that is something that is one that I've heard is a good book, and obviously it's got major reviews and everywhere and stuff, and I hear it thrown around a lot. But I'll be honest with you, I went to a talk with him, and I got that book first, and then I heard about Atomic Habits. So, but man, I'll be
get it on the list.
Definitely on the list. Yeah,
it's one of those books like you're talking about, sort of the compound effect, and like me chucking out episodes until I get 100. It's like when ice is melting, there's changes at every sort of degree of temperature, but you don't see that until it goes from 0 to 1 degrees or -1 to 1 degrees. That's when it starts melting. You don't see the 36 degrees it moved prior to that. And it's like the whole sort of iceberg thing. You see the tip of the iceberg, but you don't see what's under it and sort of holding it there. And it's the compound effect of that. Like in Atomic Habits, he talks about Dave Brailsford. You probably know him if you like cycling. Can you hear me? I just lost a little bit then.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Dave Brailsford took over the British cycling team, made those 1% changes, which then all sort of compounded into the most successful cycling team the world's ever seen. And hopefully that continues for a long time, because we need to be good at something. But yeah, it's like that compounding impact. And I feel like in life, when you're faced with a decision that's like, shall I get out of bed now or shall I wait? That's when you need to draw on that 1% method. You're like, right, well, this 1%, it's not going to mean much today, but in 3 weeks' time, or in 3 years' time, or 30 years' time, getting out of bed today might be the thing that makes a difference.
Exactly, man. If anyone is listening that does that and has that problem getting out of bed, either read Atomic Habits or read David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me, because that book will get you out of bed quicker than anything. His philosophy on everything is just like, he's a nutter. I'm just gonna say it. He's a crazy man, and he's done some incredible things. But he talks about how, and exactly that same question: why am I doing this? And like, if you've set yourself a goal or a challenge or whatever, you got to ask yourself every day, why am I doing this? And then continue to do that thing every single day. And it's right. You know, if you do something today, then it's going to be easier to do tomorrow and easier to do the next day and then the next day. And by a week's time, you're going to be like, why the hell was I even fretting about that? You know, it's something that it's almost so medial that you can just be like, oh, I've just done it, right? And that's also why journaling and keeping a track of kind of where you've been is really important as well, because you can always, like, I do this with my clients a lot. I look at, you know, there's a mountain they got to climb, right? The mountain is at the top of the mountain is the goal they want to achieve, and there's lots of ways to get up the mountain. You know, you can go fast route, but you're going to be probably really tired. It's going to be sore to do it, or you can take a longer route and a more exploratory route, and that sort of stuff. But there's going to be a point along the way where you feel like giving up.
Yeah.
And those moments are when you have to turn around and look back at where you've come from. You know, you're not at the bottom of the mountain anymore. You're halfway up or whatever way up, but you've gone that far. So you need to look at what you've done to get to this point. And if you got to this point, there's no reason why you can't keep going further. Because you just got to reiterate and work on the strengths and the pull in the things that you've done to get you to this stage. And I mean, I see it all the time. It's that sort of deflating, like, oh, I just can't see this happening. I'm like, right, well, when you started this, did you see yourself getting to this point? No. Okay, what does that tell you? Right? Bang, and then you just start like pacing, you know, you almost set the new goal from that point and go, well, look, let's get you to this point, but use what you've done already as a driving force to get you back up that mountain. So yeah, man, there's some super motivational books out there, and I love that you've got a similar reading library to me.
Yeah, I was just about to say then, it's almost like in meditation, you've got like the beginner's mind. And I think that's something that everyone can sort of take into every day, whether you're climbing a mountain or your own metaphorical mountain. When you look back, it's just about sort of beginning again. When you go into that task with your sort of blind optimism or like proper optimism, you go into it with a beginner's mind. So you know that, like, right, well, I'm just starting at this different stage. It's not about what's already behind me, because that's done. That doesn't matter. I'm starting this new challenge from this stage here. And then tomorrow I'll start it again from this stage here. For those that can't see the video, I'm putting my hand up and up and up as if I'm going up a metaphorical mountain. But I think coming into things with the beginner's mind and looking back, and also when you were talking about sort of climbing mountains, it's a lot easier to fall down a mountain than it is to get up. The trouble with that is you'll get hurt on the way down, because you'll be butthurt at yourself for falling down the mountain and losing all that progress. And I think it's like one of those things, like for you, let's say you had a day where you just didn't want to be vegan anymore and you went to like Five Guys. I'm thinking that's probably like the dirtiest meat I can imagine from when I used to eat beef. Like, I remember they're pretty powerful. If you went and had 2 Five Guys burgers, you'd have fallen down your sort of mountain of your journey as sort of like plant-based, and you're going to get hurt by it, because one, you're just going to be really disappointed at yourself. 2, you're going to feel like shit. And because you've been plant-based for so long, you're probably just going to shit your pants. So there's falling down the mountain, and it does have a negative impact in your life. And that's why I think it's so important when people do start a journey, whatever their motivation is, just to sort of keep going. So I feel like they owe it to themselves, or you owe it to yourself to keep pushing through that. And I wish I could take my own advice. I think that's
That's the thing. Yeah, it's so hard to give yourself own advice because you've got no accountability on anyone kind of checking in on you. And so, you know, I get the same problem sometimes, but I tend to use social media as my accountability
yeah.
mirror, if you like, as David Goggins says. You know, I use that as my proof that I said, right, this time last month I said I was going to do this and this is where I am. And I kind of like have to feel like I'm, especially with my work, but also just for myself, that I'm continuously progressing in everything I do. So yeah, it's super, super good. So after Ross Edgley, what's next on the list? What's your next book?
Well, I'm reading a couple. Like I read multiple books at the same time, but this Ross Edgley one sort of taken over. I'm reading The Tao of Pooh as well. So like the Tao philosophy in Winnie the Pooh. And it's brilliant. I like the way that Winnie the Pooh was written was genius anyway. And the way, I think it's Ben Hoff, it's over the other side of the room, otherwise I'd grab it. But it's quite well written. I'm only about 20 pages in, and I sort of pick up the other book when I just want to have a break from the current book I'm on. But the next one, because I've got it on my pile that I can see over here, is Utopia for Realists.
Okay, nice.
I haven't read that yet. But I'm quite excited. I think I'll probably finish the Ross Edgley book today and I'll get on that. But I've honestly, ever since I came back from Australia in mid-March, and I've ordered about 25, 30 books.
Good work.
So I'm just slowly making my way through them. My pile's pretty intimidating. Some of the books in there, like The Laws of Human Nature. Have you?
No, I haven't heard of that one.
It's by Robert Greene. It's about 800 pages and it looks so intimidating. The words are really small, so I'm just like, right, well, I'm just going to put you at the bottom of the pile and I'll get to you another day.
Oh man, I've had a book on my shelf like that. My version of that is Principles by Ray Dalio.
Oh yeah, I haven't heard of it. Let me just show you
this. Yeah, this is a fucking beast of a book. Like just and it's just. I mean, I don't know how many pages it is, but yeah, 650, and it's basically about sort of work and life and how the principles of everything kind of, if you have the principles in set, like, you'll be fine. But again, I always kind of put a book on top of it, like, oh, maybe I'll read that one first.
They always look.
Never get around to it.
If it looks nice on the shelf, who needs to read it? It doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. It's got a nice binder. It looks good. You know, it's kind of like fancy. You know, cover and stuff. But I've actually just started Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers. Have you heard of that one?
Brilliant book. I love Malcolm Gladwell as an author. I think he's genius.
Yeah, so I heard about him. I've obviously heard his name, but I heard about his book, Talking to Strangers or Talking with Strangers.
Yeah.
And I heard the synopsis through someone I knew, and they said, yeah, definitely have a look at it. It'd be interesting, especially because I'm obviously meeting lots of people from different backgrounds with my work and now with, you know, just socially. But it's something that I kind of wanted to. But then I saw the book Outliers, and I read a review on that, and it sounded a bit more kind of like. I wanted to read that first to get his writing style, but I love the way he writes already, and I definitely will be ordering more of his books. But I love Outliers so far. Has been really interesting, just purely because, again, it's factually based, like science, but similar to sort of Daniel Kleinman, you know, with Thinking Fast and Slow. He kind of takes real stuff that's happened in history, evaluates it, looks at why something's happened, and you're like, oh yeah. That actually has happened, and I didn't realize that was such. You know, you look at everything through this tunnel, and they're looking at it through this tunnel, and it's super, super interesting. But I'm excited to get to the end of that one. Actually,
David and Goliath is a good one as well by Malcolm Gladwell, and it's sort of a tale of underdogs and misfits, and it's like a feel good read. And he starts off talking about the actual story of David and Goliath, but from a different spin on it, to say that sort of Goliath had some sort of syndrome which meant he could never stop growing, which affected his eyesight, which then meant that when David threw the stone or whatever he did, it took him out a lot easier than if he was actually a full-blown giant with the capabilities of a normal man. And he just like an alternate look at things like that, which is really interesting, especially the other books that, like you said, about talking to strangers. I actually put that on my story earlier with everything that's sort of going on in America. It's not a subject I want to get on because we could be here for hours, and we're two, I'm assuming, sort of white middle-class males. We shouldn't really have an opinion, but we can have a voice to sort of speak up about that. But talking to strangers throughout the whole book, he based it on Sandra Bland, who was a woman in Texas in 2015, and she was pulled over for not signaling a lane change. pretty much pulled over because of racial profiling, ended up actually killing herself in prison. They hadn't checked on sort of mental health issues. But it goes through the whole process in which this police officer just judged her before actually speaking to her. And if you listen to the audiobook of Talking to Strangers, I don't know if you like audiobooks when you're running or anything like that, he also plays clips from the actual recordings. It's really interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, look, I'll be honest with you, the audiobook stuff I like when I'm driving. I like podcasts when I'm running. I don't know why, I just can't seem to I don't know. I just, for some reason, I'm concentrating. I'm thinking about other stuff when I'm running. So then when I'm with the story, I have to like really concentrate. And so when I'm driving, I'm really concentrating, and I've kind of got that in between. But podcasts when I run definitely help me because I can kind of like pick up on things, will prick my ears. And I'm like, ooh, what's that? And then I have to stop and write them down.
And it's like someone's with you as well, isn't it? It's like you've got a friend running with you, but you don't actually have to have the hindrance of someone else slowing you down, of course.
Exactly. Have I'm assuming you've heard Modern Wisdom, Chris's podcast. That I run to that a lot, and that's a really good podcast. It's just, you know, exactly what it says on the tin. It's modern wisdom, and I appreciate his view on life, and that live I did with him was really refreshing, and I really enjoyed doing that with him. But he's a good egg, and I like love to see where he's going to go in life. Yeah,
definitely. He's smashing out so many podcasts at the moment. I sent him a message the other day saying, do you want to come on? It's a long shot for me because I've just started, but I'm just sending out messages sort of left, right and centre, and he said come back to me at the end of summer, so that's what I'll do.
That's great. Look, at the end of the day, you got to put yourself out there, and you never know what will come back. And actually, one thing that I can, if I can speak from experience here, with the lives that I've been doing, particularly, I was nervous about doing them to start with. I didn't really know how they'd come across, but I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do them and see how they go. And it was actually a friend of mine, Ben, who is a personal trainer, and he said, do you want to come on mine? And I said, mate, that'd be great, and whatever. And then it just kind of got me thinking, like, why not? Like, what have I got to lose? And now I've got people who I don't even know messaging me saying like, hey man, I love your lives. Like, who else have you got coming up next? And, you know, have you got any tips for if I wanted to start doing them myself and all this sort of stuff? And I love that because I've inspired other people to do it. And I think that is the most important thing about whatever you do in life. So long as you can inspire others to do things that they want to do and that they love. I don't get when people are like, oh no, I'm not going to tell you what I'm actually up to because like you might copy me or might like I don't get it. Why do people do that? It's like it just doesn't make any sense in this world, right? At all. You know, maybe back in the day when it was not even back in the day. Like I just don't get it anyway. So if anyone's got any good knowledge to share, pump it online, put it online, because you know if somebody's stealing it, that means it's good content. That means it's good things.
You're doing it wrong when no one's stealing your content.
Exactly. So man, keep doing what you're doing. I think you've got a really good thing here, and I like the name as well. I need to read. It's really catchy.
I was lucky with that, honestly. I sort of, it just came to me and I started Googling it and I was like, no one's got this.
I love that. Love that. That's
so good. I sort of jumped straight on that. But it's been brilliant to chat with you. I don't know, time wise, you've got something at 2, is that correct? Or
I do, yes, absolutely. So I do have to shoot. But mate, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Pleasure to virtually meet you.
Likewise, and thank you so much for having me on.
Where can people find you? If you tell people this is your time to sort of get people to your page, and all of my listeners, that is.
No worries. Yeah, look, my name's Jack Revell. You can find me on Instagram. It's Jack W Revell, all one word. And I'm a mindset life coach. So I kind of pump out stuff that's just motivational and aspirational and hopefully inspirational as well for those that are watching it. And I am kind of what you see is what you get. So if anyone's interested in learning a bit more about me, head over to my Instagram and you can find out as much as you wish there.
Perfect. Excellent. And I'll put that below in the description. I'll obviously do an outro myself for this, but it's been a pleasure. So I'll just stop recording now.